Hey everyone, Cynics here. Halloween's over, and you know what that means. It's time to clean those fake cobwebs off your mirror because International Self Portrait Day is here. Let me start by tempering expectations a bit. There's no crazy concept this year, so while you see me doodling the silliest sketch possible in real time in the background, please note that this whole art process was done by just sitting in front of the computer with 2.5 hours of free time and hoping for the best. The reason for this casualness is simply because Lightbox was this past weekend and I am still recovering from all the excitement and fun. You might notice my voice is just a little bit wrecked as well. Fear not, though, I think this self portrait still wound up being fun and potentially a lot more close to the spirit and tradition of Self Portrait Day. Before starting, I always take a look back through the previous annual self portraits I've done over the past 17 years or so, and my only real goal is to just make sure that each one is a bit different. There's been a lot of very bright, high key ones, definitely a lot with blue, a lot of greens, but today seemed like a good day for some orange and purple. So I laid in a bit of those colors, and then I just decided to start free painting this into a more standard self portrait. So everything will be on just one layer from here on. No need for sketches, no need for planning. We'll just adapt as we go. I usually like to reference some of the art things that I've been thinking about lately, so if I had to sum up the art concepts that have been most prevalent in my mind this year, I would say I've had a lot of excitement for the art meta feeling more and more focused on the idea of using the darker areas of an image to be the main driving force for allowing exciting color choices. You might have heard me ramble about how you should only focus on either showing information in the direct light or in the shadows. Well, I definitely think that the shadow information route has been the way to go lately. By blowing out the direct light and focusing on how much subtle hue can get exaggerated in ambient light and bounce light, it allows for so much more fun. I think I've mentioned this in regards to Sam Does Arts in the past, but artists like Yu-Ming Lee also do this really well. Anyway, I did take a break in the middle of my 2.5 hours, which is always nice because it let me get fresh eyes on where things were working and where things were starting to fall apart. It's always hard to keep that big picture in mind, but that simple gradation from the top to the bottom of the face seemed very important, so I tried to refocus that with some big airbrushing. As always, we need to remind ourselves that the art process isn't a simple one-way street. We don't just go from big strokes to small strokes and never turn back. So feel free to mix things up. You can go from small strokes back to big strokes, from rendering back into sketching, and so on. All of these things work together, so let them work off each other. I think this painting is pretty much on autopilot now, so I would like to ramble for a little bit about life and whatnot. I'm happy to report that the state of the art world is strong. This past weekend at Lightbox was just overflowing with passion for art. There was so much joy and so much enthusiasm that it's hard to not feel reinvigorated to keep doing as much as I can for the art community. I spent so much time at the expo just handing out little hair sprouts, and sometimes I would get asked what they represent, which is not something I think about much since they simply add more joy to the world, which is the foundation of doing anything creative in the first place. But if I had to sum it up differently, I would say they represent optimism more than anything. Optimism for growth, optimism for learning, optimism toward reaching your goals, whatever they may be. Now, coming back from Lightbox and its bastion of positivity, there is a harsh shift back into everyday life and the state of the world. More mass shootings, more hate, more conflicts around the world. I'm certainly no stranger to speaking out about these types of things. I've mentioned before about the regrets of my younger life, like the complacency towards dehumanization that I went along with after 9/11. I was of college age back then, buying into every media narrative about how we were attacked because these Arabic people hate freedom. So, yes, I regrettably had moments of smug satisfaction watching Afghanistan cities being bombarded with American weapons. It really wasn't until the Iraq War rolled around and I watched as our politicians mocked France endlessly for their insistence that we show restraint. We called them traitors, we changed the name French fries to freedom fries, and I started to feel my stomach churn a bit. It's around this time I just began deep diving into the history of American involvement in other countries over the past century, just absorbing as much knowledge as I could. Because none of this stuff was really taught in school, and it certainly wasn't shown on news media. Needless to say, I became quite critical of my country. Obviously, these thoughts have been very relevant lately. Through Chromacore and all of my online teaching, I've developed so many art friends from around the world. Friends in Russia, friends in Ukraine, friends in Israel, friends in Palestine. They're all awesome and super passionate about art. I think we all know that there is no corner of the planet where babies are born evil. We all have the same optimistic biological programming, and it takes a lot of conditioning to strip that goodness away from people. So it's been very painful to see anyone try to justify the loss of another life. It's painful to see when it comes from a place of hate and oppression, and it's even more painful to see when it comes from a place of naivety as the oppressor. And I certainly understand that second one more than the first. But I also now understand the importance of speaking out, because otherwise I'd still be trying to fill the rift in my heart with freedom fries. All right, I will wrap up my rambling tangent. It was just a difficult transition from the endless joy of Lightbox back into the recognition that there are artists around the world who don't get to experience that joy. If my words have upset you in any way, that's fine. You can experience your journey as it appears to you. You don't need to argue with me. I'm very clear minded and I understand why you might feel differently. But anyway, the self portrait part is done. So I'm honestly just relieved that anything decent came out of those 2.5 hours, because I am dead on energy, as you can once again hear in my voice. But please make sure to do your own self-portraits today. The main reason for this video is just as an annual reminder, so don't forget it. You are all wonderful and amazing people, and I can attest to that by every single sample size I've encountered just being delightful. So I hope you enjoyed the video and tolerated my rambling, and hopefully the comments section doesn't become a mess. But, wishful thinking. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll throw in my special big thank you to the Patreon people as well. See ya, everyone, and stay safe out there.